can't even say my own YouTube channel, Making Money in Real Estate with Sharon Butler. And today, what I'm going to do for you is you're going to get a free peek. Now, that is very rare. A free peek at how we teach our brokers how to pass the real estate exam. And, I did all this really quick and I didn't notice what was going to be in the background. See my beautiful flowers? Those are because my mom passed away on Tuesday. Um, and all that stuff. I have to say this. Arlene, my business partner, is online with me, ready to let our students in. And over there in the corner is all the boxes that I have to put away from the backyard parties because I have all those cushions and I don't want to let them go. But you guys are going to learn so much today, absolutely free. But it's only good morning. Wait, it's our favorite person. How you doing? So we're going to do we have some brokers joining us. Oh my God, they're all online, Arlene. We got to let them in. We still have 2 minutes before class, so we're gonna have 2 minutes of airtime of not learning much, but let me fix the camera there. We're gonna get you to learn some cool stuff. So I'm gonna let everybody in. Arlene, we're gonna have a great class.
We are.
Well, I have my little badge on that says best day ever. So we're gonna do this. I'm letting the students in, and at 8:30 we will be starting the class. Hello, hello. Hi, Anne. How you doing? That's a great picture. And connecting to audio, I don't have your name on there. Hello, how you doing? It says iPhone. We have Anne, we have iPhone. So I am so bad with names, you guys. I'm so sorry. But this is it's a small class because what we also offer, and I don't know if Arlene told you we offer it. There's some more people coming in. We offer, it's called instant access. I always have to think about that. Direct online, instant access. Anyway, so we're going to get started at 8:30 on the dot. Well, it's 8:29 right now. Once we get started, we're going to be rolling like crazy, learning so much about real estate and how to take an exam. So in our class, I don't want to say too much until the last people get in. I'm trying to count it down. I think we have everybody, but I'm going to wait till that 8:30 exactly, in case anybody wants to sneak in. Because some of our online people, they want to get in at the last minute, and Arlene has to get them in. So let's see. I'm going to share. So everybody should have received in their email instructions. You like that? Instructions. Hi, Martha. How you doing? Hey, we kind of match. You have your microphone on. I need a hat. I need a hat like yours. That looks so cute. I have one kind of.
So cool.
Yeah, it's cold outside, isn't it?
It is.
I gotta tell you, I did not order this top. So I do Temu every so often when they have something cute to see if it's really cute or not. And I've been also getting samples from TikTok Shop because I finally got to the part where I can have a showcase. But this came from Temu, and it's like lined and everything. It's like soft on the inside, but I didn't order it. So when they sent it, I looked at what they were sending. I'm like, it said Temu orders delivered, and I'm like, what's delivered? But it's super comfortable and it fits really well. I didn't order it because I had it in my shopping cart, so maybe that's why it got sent. I maybe hit the wrong button, but I didn't hit the button because I thought since it was lined, it was going to be like thick and icky. So when it showed up, I tried it. I'm like, I gotta wear that in class tomorrow because it's super cute. For $11.54. Are you kidding me?
Can't beat that.
You can't beat that with a stick, right? Okay, you guys, I am the bargain shopper. Okay. So like all the stuff on my TikTok shop, I'm trying to try it out so that I could actually do a commercial and go, yeah, this really works. And I got these patches. I'm sorry, I'm doing a commercial, but I just wanted to show you guys not to order these. So I had to do the commercial, and they make you have a strolling, what's it called? Like a script. These patches, these pain patches, I haven't tried them yet. So I won't say don't use them yet, but the other pain patches I tried, you put them on where you hurt, right? And then you leave them on for a while, and then to get it off, it hurts more to get it off than it's worth because the pain is ridiculous. But anyway, so you guys don't want to learn about that. You guys want to learn about real estate. But it's now 8:32. So I'm so glad you all joined us for our class today. And we have a couple of returning people. So what happens when you return is you're allowed to take our class up to 3 times. I don't know how you can sit through 3 times, Martha. I don't know how you're doing it. But you're going to learn so much. Now, Arlene sent you an email that had our book, our 62-page book that people called the golden pages of passing the broker and the real estate exam. However, I don't know if you printed them out because sometimes people print them out and sometimes they don't. But in the instructions, you should have printed it out and you should have a bright yellow highlighter. The reason we use bright yellow, and this is a test taking tip, is I was allergic to taking tests for the longest time. I really did not like taking tests. And my dad noticed that I wasn't doing so well taking tests. And so he said to me, my dad was actually a genius. He is one of the people who, I think there was two of them together working on getting the lead out of the paint. And so in the 1970s, he has a patent on that and 22 patents. So he knows how to take tests. So he said to me, I'm going to show you how to take tests. And a lot of people think that you just go in and you just take the test, like you read the question, answer the question. Well, you're going to be learning today that you don't read the question and just pick an answer. And you're going to also learn today not to overthink it, because when you overthink a question, even when I overthink, I'll look at the answers, because you're going to look at the answers first. I'll look at the answers and then I'll read the question and then I'll start overthinking it. And then I'm like, wait, I know how to take a test. So you're going to learn how to take a test. You're going to learn how to pass the real estate broker's exam for California. And I know some of you are going, well, I'm not doing the brokers, I'm doing the sales. Don't worry. The test questions come from the same place. So there's over 6,000 questions that the state of California, the DRE, uses when you're taking the test. There's some other things I'm going to tell you because you guys paid for my class. You're not going to see this on my YouTube channel because I'm not going to share everything because that's not fair to you guys. But we actually, if you guys have any questions at all, you can call us, you can talk to us. We're here to get you to pass your exam so that next year in 2026, you guys are going to be doing so well. The California Association of Realtors, it wasn't even them that released it. So we have our own economist, but the National Association of Realtors, their economist, his name's Lawrence Yin. What he said was he said that real estate's going to go up 16% this year in 2026. So you guys are in the class at the right time. You got all your classes ready. And is everybody taking their test this year? Is anybody?
Yeah,
Yay! Next week, right?
I'm taking it on Thursday. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm talking over somebody.
No, that's okay. Put it in the chat or say it out loud. We don't care. We don't care. And because sometimes our students take the test at the same time they actually get to meet at the test site, which is kind of cool. Sometimes I like to say, okay, everybody wear red, or everybody, it's just crazy stuff like that. I don't know if the Department of Real Estate has realized that they have a higher passing rate now because of our class. Their normal passing rate is about 48%. And that's for brokers and salespeople. Actually, brokers have a little higher passing rate. It's like 652. But our passing rate, all of our brokers who have taken our class have passed the real estate exam and have their broker's license. All of our salespeople, I mean, it's about a 97%. I used to work at another real estate school and it was really funny. They had a high passing rate and everybody thinks that they have a high passing rate, but that's because I was there. No, I mean, because what I'm going to do as we go through the information on these 62 pages, believe it or not, I've done so much real estate. So I counted it back and I'm at 40 years of being invested into the real estate business. So I started, and it's more than 40 years because I realized when I was thinking about why did I get addicted to real estate? My dad talked me into buying vacant land in Florida when I was 10. And it's so funny because people go, did he make you buy alligator land? And I'm like, no, there's no alligators, I don't think. But I bought it for 10,000 and I sold it for 12,000. So I was able to do that because my dad bought it under his name and he bought the lot next to me. And people go, well, if you were 10, how did you have your own money? Do you guys know that little show called The Brady Bunch? If you look really closely at the little kids, you'll see a little kid that looks a lot like me. So my mom put us in those background things. So that's how I raised a lot of money. And just every time I got money for Christmas or my birthday, I saved it. And I don't know why parents aren't teaching their kids to save money now, but you don't even really have to save that much money to buy real estate because there's down payment assistance programs. And you guys, I know just about everything. I've done it all. I've done flipping. I'm going to tell you, I've done flipping. I've done wholesaling. Obviously, I've represents buyers and sellers. I've owned my own mortgage company. So you're learning from somebody who actually knows the business. And I'm going to give you examples and stories throughout the whole class so that you remember them, because it's super funny. People go, you know, the Escondido story? I'm like, yeah. They're like, it's on the test. I'm like, I know. So, of course, we have to know that, right? So we're gonna get started. We are on page 1, which is I'm gonna make it so I don't see you guys, because actually, believe it or not, I get kind of nervous. So we are California real estate trainers. Make sure you have the California in the front, because there is another real estate trainers. They've been in business much longer than us, but they are also the people I have worked with in the past. So we love California, and it's California real estate trainers. But the other thing I want to say about that is anybody throughout the United States. This class can help you pass your real estate exam. We've had people watch our classes from Colorado, Idaho, Ohio, and Texas. So those are the states where people have taken our class, and it's helped them also. Different states do different things. And as you guys know, you had to take to get to the broker's exam, you had to take 8 classes. So those of you who taken your sales exam, you only had to take 3. Those 3 count towards your total of 8. Once you have those 8 classes and 2 years experience, then you can apply for your broker's license. Now, there are some ways around that. So those of you who are taking your sales exam, there are some ways around it. If you have family that you've been helping them with real estate in the past, you might be able to skip the 2 years. The other way, this is all on the exam, by the way. So whenever I talk, I'm not just talking for fun. I'm literally, like, you guys probably don't even think I'm talking about the test yet, right? Because I haven't even gone through the first page. However, this is on the test also. So back in 2013, they changed the rules for the brokers. It used to be if you had a 4-year college degree and those 8 classes, you could actually get your California broker's license. You could take the test. But they changed it in 2013. And you do have to know that instead of just your 4-year college degree, it has to be a 4-year college degree with a major or minor in real estate and the 8 classes. And then you could apply for your broker's exam. One other thing that they did was they made it so it's a little bit harder by making your broker actually let them know if you've closed any deals. So if you've had your real estate license for 2 years, but you haven't done anything with it, and you try to apply for your broker's license, your broker is probably not going to sign off on it. So there are some reasons that you might not get it, but there's some other reasons you might. Anything that has to do with the real estate exam, the broker's exam, your mortgage license exam, if you're going to do that, we can help you pass it, because quite honestly, I've done it. And I didn't even mention the fact that even when it got slow in real estate, and maybe I was doing some refinancing, it got really slow. So I actually worked at a cemetery, and I bought real estate there, and I flipped it. So if you can flip it, I've done it. If it has to do with real estate, I can probably answer your questions. If you're already under a broker, I prefer for you to talk to your broker first. If they can't answer your question, or if you want another opinion, just say, I love what you said. I totally trust you, but I want to see if I can get some other opinions, because I don't want to step on anybody's broker's toes. So with all of that said, we're going to teach you everything you need to know to pass your exams. Isn't that awesome? So we're going to start with property ownership, land use. And property ownership, land use is one of the longest sections, but we'll get through it. But what I do is I break it in half so that we can do some of it. We get to about the end of page 6. We're going to stop. We're going to go back to the beginning, and then we're going to do questions and answers. The reason we go back to the beginning is as we're going through the questions and answers, you might want to take notes on your paper that you're going through. So you have your bright yellow highlighter. The reason you have the bright yellow highlighter, and that's the reason that bright yellow highlighters came out in the first place, because bright yellow, that color, that fluorescent yellow, and the chemicals in your brain. Remember, my dad was a chemical engineer. Yes, he was. He taught me that the chemicals in your brain and the chemicals of that bright yellow, they suck together and they make you remember stuff. So when the people who make highlighters came out with pink and blue and green and orange, hopefully none of you have those. And if you have that color, make sure that somebody in your household, or call one of those drop it off DoorDash, and get bright yellow, because the bright yellow color helps you remember what you highlighted. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about how to take an exam and how to move around when you're doing the real estate exam or any multiple choice question test. So there's ways to work those multiple choice question tests without knowing anything about the subject. So we're going to help you learn all that. After we do property ownership and land use, we're going to do laws of agency and fiduciary duties, because as a real estate professional, and that's what I like to call myself, I don't really like the word real estate agent. I really like real estate professional and consultant because you know what? That's what we are. We're helping people with the most important decision in their life, and it's not to be taken lightly. Fiduciary means that we're going to do what's in the best interest of our clients no matter what. We're here for them. And we're going to talk about dual agency when you're representing the seller and the buyer. And it's really important when you're doing dual agency because you're one broker or one salesperson or even two salespeople under one broker doing one deal, and you're representing both sides. And some people go, well, Sharon, isn't that like me being a divorce attorney representing both sides? And I've said, and it's all about you. It's about your standards and your professionalism. And if you do it right, you can help both people. But you know what? I got a story already. And I was at a event, a fundraiser, a charity fundraiser on Thursday. I had to go to three of them. And at that fundraiser, I was talking to a guy, somebody, I was in a room, you guys, I was in a room full of real estate agents and affiliates. And one of the people who knew who I was, um, somebody told this guy, his name's Martin. Martin was looking for a real estate agent in a room full of real estate agents. And he had some questions about real estate. And one of the affiliates, which is somebody who does loans or real estate or whatever, they know I do loans too, told him if he wanted questions answered to go to me, to go to Sharon Butler. And so he came up to me and he's going to buy some more properties and he's a veteran, but he has somebody representing him on both sides and they're not being the fiduciary, not at all. They had him pay $10,000 for a termite repair and he doesn't even own the house yet. And I'm just like, whoa, that's scary. Because what if the deal doesn't go through? Was that in his best interest? Because we are fiduciaries. And I probably shouldn't have said his name. Um, but, you know, there's probably a lot of people with the same name. Let's hope that. But I mean, it's just when I see somebody doing something wrong, I'm like, gosh. And then the loan officer told him some bad information. And I said, well, is it a direct lender? You guys have to understand all this stuff I'm talking about. And as we're going through class, you're going to go, oh, that's what she said in the beginning of class. And anybody that, so you guys, I'm actually giving people on YouTube an opportunity to see how much information we give you. And then they're going to want to join our class, aren't they? So they can, when we let people into the class, we let people in anytime they can jump in once they pay for the class. And then, like we said, we'll let you take it up to 3 times. So we're going to be going today from 8:30 to 5. Sometimes we get out a little bit earlier. And after that, what I want you guys to do is go over everything you learned, because after we get out, you're going to relax and have dinner. But see, the thing is, you have to see everything 3 times. That's why we offer you the class 3 times. But throughout the class, honestly, I will go through everything about 5 to 8 times. Plus, I believe in manifestation. So I always manifest for my students. And I believe in your subliminal mind. How could you not believe in your subliminal mind? Everything that your subliminal mind hears, it holds for you. And one of the things that I want to teach you about when you're taking a test is when you're looking at the answers first, your subliminal mind is going to go straight to the right answer. And then you're going to read the question and then you're going to go right back to that same answer and make sure it goes with it. Now, the reason I say subliminal mind is because it remembers everything, even if you don't. So when you have that gut feeling and you're like, I think it's this one, but I'm not sure, stop right there and go with the one you think it is. Because that's your subliminal mind helping you pass a test. That's your secret power to pass any test. So we'll talk about that as we're going through it. So after we get around to page 6, we're going to stop. We're going to do questions and answers, see how well you picked everything up. Then we'll finish up chapter 1 and go on to laws of agency and fiduciary duties. Then valuation, appraisals, and financial analysis. And then we'll get started on financing. I don't know how far we'll get on financing, but our goal is to get somewhere between page 25 and page 30. So if we're only on 25, that's fine. You guys can ask as many questions as you want. The more questions you ask, the longer it takes us to get through. But if you ask a question about something, someone else may have the same question. And they're like, oh, good, they asked it. I don't have to ask it. But feel free to talk. I mean, nobody is going to look at you and go, oh, that was a stupid question, because no question is too stupid. Because you know what? We're all here to learn. So once we get to financing, we'll probably be almost done for the day. And we'll start where we left off. And then we'll go to transfer of property, which is super awesome because that's what we actually do in the real world of real estate. And we'll do contracts. construction terms and more, because there's lots of interesting things in the construction terms, because there's termites and there's reading blueprints and all that good stuff. But anything, we're going to cover anything and everything, because when you take the real estate exam, whether it's the broker's exam or the sales exam, they come from the same pool of questions. And it used to be about 9,000 questions. But recently, what happened that most people don't know is the Department of Real Estate started in 2019 and they went all the way to the end of 2024. So any laws that were changed prior to the end of 2024, which was last December, could be on your state exam, okay? Or your national exam, whatever exam you guys are taking. So with that said, anything that happened in 2025 and forward is not on the exam yet. And they took that 5-year period and they went through all the questions and answers and they threw some out. And they took some, well, the reason people have a hard time passing is a lot of the questions had 2 correct answers, but one was more correct. So they tried to take some of those out because they don't want anybody to challenge those questions, because the more people that challenge, that takes a lot of manpower. So they tried to take some of those out. But the other thing you have to watch for is things that say not or accept. So we'll be going through all of that as we're going through class. At the bottom of this page, you do see something that's highlighted in bright yellow, and it says unlicensed investors. If you're thinking about investing, I want to mention this before we get through halfway through class, because halfway through class, we talk about people who are not licensed versus people who are licensed. And right now, the Department of Real Estate, because I'm proud to say I'm on the task force. I'm on the California Licensing Task Force. Isn't that cool? And I'm one of the people with the biggest mouths. And what we were looking at was what other states do versus what California does. And California fought really hard and long to get it so we only have to renew our license every 4 years. Oops, that's on the test too. So brokers and salespeople have to renew your license every 4 years. Most states, it's every 2 years. So we have that benefit. But what that does to us is it makes it so that we're not making you learn as much all the time. So we're looking at possibly having a class that everybody has to take every year that is on everything that's updated, because every year, and a lot of real estate agents don't know this, but every year our forms change. Okay. And they might ask you, when did the forms change? They change at the end of June and in December. So 2 times a year we change the forms. And the forms change a lot because rules and regulations and laws change. So that's what we have to be current on. And that's why if you're not current on that, you don't know what's going on. Like there's a new law that says, I don't know exactly what it says. I got to look into it. It's about foreclosures. The bank really has to work with somebody before they try to do a foreclosure. And with that new law, it's going to help some people save their homes. So that's a whole nother subject. But you guys, in the last 20 minutes, I have thrown out so much stuff that's going to be on the test. Now we're going to put it in order and we're going to get started. So the unlicensed investor thing I just want to mention, because I didn't say much about it, is this. If you're a wholesaler, currently wholesalers do not have to be licensed. Okay. However, as a wholesaler, if you get your real estate license and you go underneath the broker, it's about a 98% chance that that broker is not going to let you wholesale while you have a license. Because wholesaling, you go and knock on someone's door and you offer to put them under contract. You say, I can tell you guys the whole wholesale class in 5 minutes. You spend $2,500 for a wholesale class, and what they teach you is to knock on the door. Oh, the big thing is they give you scripts, and you're going to talk this poor homeowner, this defenseless homeowner that has no clue what their house worth. They're going to talk them into selling their house to you for a way cheap price. You're going to put them under contract, and then you're going to sell that contract to an investor. So now you're the middleman, making it harder for the investor to make money off his hard-earned work, because he's going to take the house and completely rehab it and then sell it for a higher price. And as a wholesaler, what you're doing is you're putting them under contract and you're selling the contract. So for the longest time, the Department of Real Estate said, well, they're selling a contract, they're not selling a house. Well, the contract has to do with the house. And as realtors, we have contracts too, and it has to do with the house. So for the longest time, I was kind of mad, and I know a lot of realtors had to be mad, because we go through all this education and we go through all of this, licensing, and yet wholesalers don't have to have their license. But the DRE is finally looking at that, so that may come up. If you ever wonder about a new law that came up or something that might be coming up or something you think should come up, reach out to me. because I go to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. every year, and we talk to our senators and our congresspeople about helping homeowners and properties owners. So that's what a good realtor does. They make sure that they keep our business running. So with all of that said, now you're going to learn everything I just taught you. All right, so component number one is property ownership land use regulations. If you don't have this printed out, you should print it out, and you should have your bright yellow highlighter and a pen. If you're somebody who's really high tech and you know how to do all that inside your computer, well, I should come to your house and you should teach me. Anyway, so here goes. So it's going to sound really remedial for you guys, especially in the beginning, because it's basic stuff. But you have to know the wording for the test. The hardest part about this test, both the brokers and the salespeople and the MLO one, is how they word the questions. And so I'm going to make it so it's super easy for you guys to be able to pick out the answers. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you highlight and circle. The reason you highlight and circle is you're not even going to believe when we're going through the questions and answers how easy it makes it. Okay. So there's two types of property: real property and personal property. So what you're going to do is you're going to highlight two types of property. You're going to highlight and circle real property and highlight and circle personal property. So if you're going to study and you're going to make flashcards, you do on the front of the flashcard or index card, you'd write two types of property. On the back, you would write real property and personal property. So it's ever highlighted is on one side, highlighted and circled on the other side. And we have students send us pictures of them doing this. That's kind of way overboard. I don't know how any of you take your test or how any of you are at taking tests, but honestly, I went through a class that was similar to this, but not as detailed. It was just word association. And I went through it once and took the test and passed it the first time. You can do that too. I promise you. Just follow what I say and you'll be able to pass your first time. So property is rights or interest in the thing you own. They're going to ask you the definition of property. So highlight and circle property and highlight rights or interests. If you want to, you can highlight in the thing you own. I promise you the whole page will not be highlighted. So the first type of property we talked about was real property. Real property is immovable, so you can't move it. If there's a tree in the ground and the roots are taking place, that is real property and you cannot move it. So highlight real property, highlight and circle immovable. And I see that you guys are going in the chat, which is absolutely amazing, because in the chat is Arlene, my business partner, and she's going to be answering your questions. But the other thing she's doing is she's putting pictures in there for you to remember things. So make sure you keep an eye on the chat too. I know you're like, eye on the chat, highlight. Okay, but that's okay. We'll get you through. So anyway, anything that's attached to the ground that's not movable is real property, like your condo or your house you're living in. You can't take that with you on vacation. It's stuck to the ground. So parts of real property are, so highlight parts of real property are, and the first one is a word called appurtenances. Now appurtenances are stuck to the property and they run with the land. So what I want you to do is bring an arrow down and write runs with the land. I want you to highlight and circle appurtenances. And I want you to write runs with the land, because if you have to write it, you're actually going to remember it. Okay. So going on, we have appurtenances, run with the land, and then we have highlight and circle land, highlight and circle fixtures. We're going to talk a lot about fixtures because they're going to ask you a lot of questions about fixtures, probably about 5 to 8 of them, and a load-bearing wall. So for the purpose of the real estate exam, a load-bearing wall is stuck and you cannot move it. Okay, it's real property. Now I say for the purpose of the test. So we have the test world and we have the real world. Those of you going for your broker's license, you've got the hardest part about taking the test is when you're taking the test, you're like, well, this is how I do it in the real world. And so this is how it's going to be on the test. No, it's not. It's how Sharon said it is in class, not how it is in the real world. Because a load-bearing wall, I'm looking straight at a wall right now. I turn my camera around, but when I turn it around, you would see all the toys and stuff from the backyard parties I do. So I rent out my backyard for parties. It's really fun. And since it's winter and it's windy, everything's piled up in one little area and I got to put it away. But I'm looking at a wall that used to be there. And it's not a wall anymore. It's a 17-foot slider door. And that wall was a load-bearing wall. So in the real estate exam, the load-bearing wall is real property. You cannot move it. But if you're a house flipper like I was, I'm going to walk in the house and I'm going to look at my son and I'm like, which walls can I tear down? So, and if he says a load bearing wall, I'm like, oh man. And then we argue for a while. So we were supposed to be on Flip or Flop, but I didn't know the show was called Flip or Flop. So when they interviewed me and kept asking me what I do when I flop, I'm like, I don't flop. Why would I flop? And why would you want somebody on a show that flops? So I guess I should have made up a really good story about what happens when you don't have a good flip, right? And Arlene and I are thinking about doing a flipping class. We'll probably be doing that sometime in the next year. I want to buy a house and we're going to flip it and we're going to have students join us. So going on to the second type of property, that's personal property. And personal property are items that you own, like my cup that says mornings can be rough. It doesn't, that's not meant to be negative. Rough means dogs. We have dogs, right? Everybody has pets, right? So mornings can be rough. That's my cup, my phone, my glasses, my ring light that's on. All these things are my personal property because I bought them and they're mine. So personal property are items that are movable. So highlight personal property, highlight and circle movable. So anything that you own, which you can take with you, is your personal property. And if you look in the chat, Arlene might have a picture of ladies' purses and shoes. Men, maybe your backpack or a car or a surfboard. Items that are not real property. So it's worded like this in our book on the thing that you're following through. It's an ebook, is what it is. Items that are not real property. It's worded like that because on the test it's going to say all of the following are real property except or not. So the wording on the test is what makes the real estate exam tricky. Okay, so you got to make sure you understand the question. It's really funny because when I said that, I'm like, make sure you understand the question. I thought that was like something that everybody already thinks about when they're taking a test, but not, because you're trying to rush through and there's no reason to rush through. You have plenty of time to literally go through the test. It's been timed. At the school I used to work at, they're like, you can go through the test 3 times and still finish it. But don't overthink. If you don't know a question, skip it, move on. We'll talk about that when we're talking about how to take the test. So items that are highlight not real property, highlight and circle leasehold estate. So a leasehold estate is renting or leasing, not owning. So when you're making a payment to the property owner, so they're not called landlords anymore, they're called property providers. When you're making a payment to a property provider, somebody that owns the property, that means you don't own, you rent. Okay. So I mean, that seems logical, but some people don't know. I ask people all the time, the property you live in, do you own it? And they say, I don't know. Well, that could be because they live with their parents or they live with a spouse, or they, maybe they have a bunch of friends that they're renting with. So if it's not real property, you don't own it. If you own it, it's real property. The next one on this page is choice. Choice is an interesting one because choice is a French word for thing, which would be personal property. So highlight choice, highlight French word for thing, and highlight and circle personal property. Everybody good? Let me know if I'm going too fast. I'll slow down for you. Don't worry, we'll get through everything by the end of the weekend. After we finish this weekend, for those of you who your test is not till Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday, you can repeat the class again in the evening. So what we do Monday night, we do on Saturday morning. So what I'm doing now, we'll do Monday night. What we do Saturday afternoon, we do Tuesday night. Sunday morning is Wednesday, and Sunday afternoon is Thursday. Now, I can't promise you it'll be exact, but it'll be pretty close. Okay. So picked fruit. Picked fruit is personal property. So if you go outside and you pick a fruit off the tree, you pick an apple and you're holding the apple and it's in your hand, you can get in the car and drive away and eat it for lunch, right? So if you can carry it with you and leave, it's personal property. But if it's still on the tree, it's hanging on the tree, it's connected to the tree, so that makes it a fixture, right? Because if it's so a fixture is connected to the property. It depends on how it's connected, and we're going to talk all about that. So if it's still on the tree, it's connected and it's real property. So highlight implements. Implements are annual crops produced by cultivation. Highlight legally belonging to the tenant with implied rights to harvest. What the heck does that even mean? So let's say that you have somebody that they're really interested in owning a winery, and they have grapes growing, and they have a 5-year lease, and they've been leasing for 5 years, and now they're ready to buy their own. So they give their notice to their property owner, and they're like, okay, we're going to be leaving, but we're not sure when we're going to be able to harvest. So the grapes belong to the tenants. So what they can do is come back and harvest it. So with landlord tenants, the tenants have the right to come back and harvest, what they worked on, their crops. Now, if it's buyer seller, which you really have to know because there's a test question about corn, is the corn the buyers or the corn the sellers? Well, the corn is the buyers. And so you have to remember that highlight buyers get the corn because they're paying for it. Anything that's part of real property, they get for the purpose of the test. Anytime I say for the purpose of the test, because in the real world, everything is negotiable. And that's something I know that the elephant in the room is the National Association of Realtors did get sued, but they got sued because of one realtor that worked at one real estate office, and the whole thing was so wrong in so many ways. So, and one of the things they said that realtors do is we have fixed pricing, and that we actually talk to each other about fixing the pricing. And the funny part is it's farther from the truth. Okay, nobody talks to anybody about how much they charge, and everything is negotiable. I know a guy that he works for a flipper, and he charges between like a half a point and 1.5 points because he gets all of the flips from the guy. So he gives him a good deal, but it's always negotiable depending on the price of the property and depending on a lot of things. So in the real world, the buyer, I mean, in the test world, the buyer gets the corn because they're paying for it. But in the real world, you can negotiate anything you want. In fact, there's many times that I see something in a house and I like to play with my buyers. I love working with buyers because they're so excited and they're so fun. Most people like working with sellers because it's more of a guaranteed commission, but it's not about money. Once you learn that it's not about money and you get excited about real estate and people know that you love what you're doing, they're going to work with you because they want to have fun when they're buying a home. They don't want to be scared. They don't want to be scared of their loan officer. So the buyer gets the corn because they're paying for it on the test. In the real world, everything's negotiable. Again, remember that highlight personal property, highlight and circle is movable, and highlight real property is highlight and circle immovable. Got it? So going on to page 3. So all that information was just page 1. Trade fixtures. Highlight trade fixtures and circle it. So trade fixtures are things that you need to do your job. So the example I have is a dental chair. So when we talk about fixtures, one of the things we're going to look at is how is it connected? Is it connected like you connected it to the property and it's not going anywhere? Or is it connected to the property like the paintings, those pictures on my wall? So those pictures on my wall, anything on my wall is really just on a hook, or it has one of those wires and it's on a hook. So anything on my walls, usually you can put your hand under it and push it up and take it away. That's not a fixture. Okay. But when you put something on your house and you make it so if it comes off, it's detrimental to the house, then it was a fixture. Like I said, then it was a fixture. So like your fixtures in your sink, in your kitchen, if you have these really awesome fixtures, you're like, I'm going to take those with me. I'm going to change them out and put some cheap ones on there because we want these fixtures in our next kitchen. Okay, you better do that before the buyer sees a house. Because if the buyer sees the house with the original fixtures on it and you switch them out, when they come back to the house for their walkthrough, they're going to make you switch them back. So anything that you think that you want to take with you, and this is what I always say to my sellers, is take it out and replace it now or forever hold your peace. Now with trade fixtures, it's different because a trade fixture is something I need to do my job. So if I'm a dentist and I have 5 dental chairs lined up and I have the x-ray equipment and it's bolted to the ground and the chairs are bolted to the ground, those are things I need to do my trade to be a dentist. So those are actually highlight and circle personal property, and it doesn't matter how they're connected. So when you're doing residential, it matters how it's connected. When you're doing commercial or industrial, it matters how it was connected because you're going to take it with you no matter what, however it's connected. If it's residential property, you're leaving it there. If they saw it, it stays. We'll talk about my friend's chandelier in just a minute. I said chandelier like a chandelier that hangs. So chattel reel. Now, this is something I don't think I've ever said in my life as a real estate person. So I got my real estate license in 1986. I started as an investor Well, if you count when I was 10, that would be sometime in the 70s. But I bought my first condo, real property that I moved into when I was 18 in 1980. And so I've been doing this for a while. And I can honestly tell you, I have never seen the words chattel reel anywhere in the real world. Chattel reel is in your principles book, and chattel reel is on your broker's test and your sales test, but it's not going to be anywhere else. Okay. So you need to know chattel reel refers to highlight chattel reel and circle it, and highlight all real property you own other than your real, I'm sorry, all personal property you own. That's what it says. All personal property you own other than your real estate. So it's everything that you have that's in your real estate, but not your real estate. That's a chattel reel. So a great example of that is if I am moving, or if I'm trying to get rid of junk and I take everything out of my home and I put it in the driveway, and I tell the moving guy or the junk guy to come get all the stuff in my driveway. I want to start fresh and new. Just get all my stuff out. All that stuff on the driveway waiting for the moving truck or the trash truck is my chattel reel. It's all my real property. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. It's all my personal property, not my real property, because you can't put your real property in the truck, right? So chattel reel, personal property. So personal property can be alienated, highlight and circle alienated, highlight and circle hypothecated, and highlight become real property. And sometimes people go, well, how can personal property become real property? Well, that's really, really easy. Like my friend's chandelier that we're going to talk about in a minute. She put up the most gorgeous chandelier. She still has it. And so she has one big chandelier that circles like this with all crystals, and it's about as tall as I am, and I'm 5'5". And she has a matching one over her dining table. Okay. I asked her about it. I'm like, Kim, if you ever sell your house, and she's like, I'm taking those chandeliers. And I'm like, well, if you're going to take the chandeliers, you better take them down before you list the property. And it's kind of funny, but not. Um, her sister's brother has been a real estate guy in Newport Beach forever. And she's always promised me that I could list her property if she ever sold. And I don't think she's ever going to sell. And apparently her sister talked her into going with her husband, which is family. And you know what I saw in the pictures? Her chandeliers. He didn't even tell her about her personal property. So, you got to be really careful with what you're doing, because that may be something that, and she's already told me, her father-in-law and her mother-in-law, her husband's parents gave them those chandeliers, and she says she's taking them with her wherever she goes. So real property, so personal property can become real property. So when she connected those chandeliers to the ceiling, they became fixtures and they're real property. So something that's a lighting fixture is going to be a fixture and stays with the property. You can always change them out before you list the property. You don't even have to change them out. Just put a cap on them. As long as the buyer doesn't see them, the buyer doesn't get them. So another thing is a tree. I could go to Home Depot and I could buy an avocado tree, and I can plant it in my backyard, and it can grow and get really big, and it's giving me a bunch of avocados every year. And then I decide to move, and I'm like, I'm taking my avocado tree with me. No, you're not. Because if the buyers saw it, the buyers get it. They're buying the property just like the corn. The buyer gets the corn because they're paying for it. So that's how personal property can become real property. So I said personal property can be alienated, hypothecated, and become real property. What does that word hypothecate mean? Highlight hypothecate and circle it. And hypothecate is to highlight pledge as security without delivery of title or possession. What does that mean? So in the United States of America, we hypothecate two things. We hypothecate our homes and we hypothecate our cars. What that means is we buy it, but we don't have to pay for the whole thing. We just make payments on it. Okay. So we pledge it as security. That means if I don't make the payments on the house, inside the loan documents, it says Mr. Trustee, because in California we do trustees. So you got to know that. Don't worry, we'll do that in the finance section. Because in California, we don't have mortgages. Most other states have mortgages, but here in California, we have trustees. And so because of that, inside the documents, it says, if I don't make my payments, you can come and take my house. Well, they're not going to pick up the house and take it. They're going to foreclose on it. Okay. Same with the car. If I don't pay my payments on my car, my name, if you look at your pink slip, if you have a pink slip, you own it, right? Okay. Well, is it pink? Is the pink slip? I don't know which one's which in a car because I do real estate. But anyway, when you buy a car, it has the name of the bank that you owe the money on. Because my car I paid for because I on a car payment and I knew I was going to keep it forever because it's a one of those hybrid cars. So I get like 40 miles to the gallon, which is great because my other car gets 10 miles to the gallon. So on your title of your car, it's going to say if you have a loan on it and it's hypothecated, it's going to have the name of the bank on there and it's going to have your name on it. But you own title with because you hypothecated it and pledged it as security. If you don't make the payments to the bank that's on that owner's thing, then they can come and repossess your car because you hypothecated it. You told them if I don't make the payment, you can come and get the car. So hypothecation is pledging as security without delivery of title or possession. Okay. So, but let me tell you something. I've been a loan officer. I started in the business as a loan officer. I got my license to do loans. I was a processor for 2 years before I became a loan officer and for about 3 years. And then I started my own mortgage company. And I can tell you right now, I have never said to a buyer, okay, we're going to talk about your loan so that we can hypothecate it. And then you know what? Your loan was approved. So now you have approval for hypothecation. I've never said hypothecation to any of my buyers. And there's some words that you think you're never going to say to your buyers, but brokers, there are some words that you probably have heard from your clients. So I say brokers because we have salespeople in the class too. And the salespeople, of course, they haven't been showing houses yet. Okay. So going on to fixtures and the chandelier story. So I already talked about Kim, my neighbor that has the chandelier. The chandelier is highlight incorporated into the land. So fixtures are highlight and circle fixtures and highlight incorporated into the land or affixed to the property. So fixtures are not incidental to the land. Appurtenances are not connected to the land, rather they run with the land. So highlight fixtures are not incidental to the land and appurtenances are not connected to the land. Remember that appurtenances run with the land. You need to remember that. And you can't see them. So a good example of an appurtenance that runs with the land is water company stock, because the question on the test is about water company stock. Now, California is pretty quirky because we're so big. Different parts of California does real estate in different ways. So some of you students may be in Northern California and some of you may be in San Diego. Northern California and San Diego do real estate differently, and Southern California, because Southern California does it like San Diego, and Northern California, most of them use different types of closings. So they'll use maybe the title company for escrow and title, where in Southern California, we use a separate escrow company. So different things. And that's because they have different rules and regulations. They have different things that happen. And like in Carmel by the Sea, Carmel and the sea, there's water under the ground, and some people have the right to that water under the ground, and some people don't. So there's one thing in Carmel where they have water company stock. And on the test exam, on your real estate and brokers exam, they're going to ask you about water company stock. Do I have to pay a separate fee for it? Or can the seller take the water company stock and own it? No, because the water company stock is appurtenant to the land and it goes with the sale. You don't even have to have anything in writing because it's stuck to it. If it's stuck to it, I don't have to write a separate contract for it. And on the test, they're going to ask you, do I need a separate contract for the water company stock? And the answer is no, but you may have 2 no answers. So you got to read what they say. The one that says no because it's an appurtenance and appurtenance is run with the land is the answer. Okay. So fixtures are personal property which have been connected to the real property, like a custom window covering. So the big reason that custom window coverings on the real estate exam is such a big deal is because of the fact that back in the day, we used to have stores like, we still have J.C. Penney's, but they don't have a curtain department anymore. I actually put that on my TikTok. It says window coverings, but you go inside there and it's Christmas decorations, totally different than window coverings. So now they have a tiny little section for window coverings. So it used to be that you would go in there, you would pick the material, you would pick the texture, you would pick everything that you want in your drapes, and then they'd make an appointment and they would come and they would measure all your windows and you had to tell them which windows go with which material and which style of drapes. And then they would make the window coverings custom. And especially in really expensive homes. And I didn't think that window coverings were that big of a deal in today's day and age, but they actually are. Because my home in Irvine, there's this big, huge, like when you first get in the front, where the front door is and you're in the courtyard, there's this big, huge window that opens with a French door. And the drapes there are like super big. And one of my renters, who's currently the new renter again, because she moved back into the house, she got these gorgeous drapes. And when she moved out, she's like, I'm taking the drapes. And I'm like, well, they're yours. You bought them and you put them up, so they're your drapes. But I really wanted them. So the reason that they're such a big deal is because they're very expensive to get very big ones. So the more expensive the home, the more expensive the window coverings. And the buyers deserve to have those window coverings because when the seller leaves with them, what are they going to do with them? They're not going to fit any window that they have because they're custom. So because they're custom window coverings, they are fixtures and they stay with the property is what I was trying to get to. So fixtures are personal property which have been connected to the real property like the custom window coverings. Incorporated into the land. So back in the day when people were suing each other for fixtures, because I mean, you go into a home and the stuff is missing, and it could have been something really expensive, like a really nice ceiling fan. Who knows? So more lawsuits were back in the day because it was cheaper to go through small claims court. And small claims court is still an easy way to get something settled. It's not very expensive as long as you're not over. I think it's $12,000. They might have raised it, but anyway. So when you go to court, what they used to do, they don't do it anymore, is they go through the Maria test. So remember that fixtures are highlight incorporated into the land, highlight affixed to the land, and become real property. And they are not incidental. So that part that's bold print, you're going to go ahead and highlight the whole thing, circle it really big, incorporate it into the land, affixed to the land, become real property, not incidental. You need to know that because they're going to ask you a bunch of fixture questions. But when they ask you about the Maria test, Maria, we're going to go through it and I'm going to tell you it's about 7 to 8 questions that they could ask you on just Maria. So the first thing is M, highlight M, circle the M, and highlight method of attachment. How was it attached? So like I said, throughout my class, I'm going to tell you stories. Some people love the stories, but some of you are like so smart, you don't need the stories. But you know what? You never know when you're going to go into the test and have what I call, I know it's not a good word, I call it a brain fart. It's not really a brain fart. What it is you're so scared that your body goes into what's called fight or flight. I don't know if you've heard of that, but fight or flight means your body's just freaked out because you're so scared to take the test. I don't know why. They're not going to hurt you in there, I promise. It's not like going to the dentist. So your body goes into fight or flight, and what happens is you get so scared that you go blank. Don't do that because students do that and they just sit there and stare at the wall. Okay, don't do that. So Maria stands for method of attachment. Highlight the M, highlight and circle method of attachment. So I'm going to tell you the story so you remember. So in case you go into fight or flight mode, you're going to remember it. Okay. So I had this all my stories are real and they're all from real estate examples. So I was very blessed and very lucky that my friend and she met this guy because she was working on a foreclosure and the clients had already had an attorney and his name was Ning Lu. And he didn't have any real estate agents he worked with. And she told him about me and he's like, I can work with her. And so we worked with him for a long time. And he would help people get a modification or a forbearance. And if they couldn't save their house, he would give it to me. I would try to save their house and I would do whatever I could to save their home. And then if we absolutely had to, then we would sell it. Now, we could sell it on a short sale if that was the problem. Like maybe they owed a short sale is when you owe more on your house than it's worth, and the bank's going to take shorter, less than, this is on the test, less than the amount that's owed to them. So let's say your client owes 600,000 on the house, but it dropped down to 425. So you can only sell for 425. So now you have to get the bank to agree to that. So there's a lot of negotiating in the world of real estate. And I used to have a company called Short Sale Resolution Network. And that was really fun because I was helping people with their homes. But you don't get paid for that and you can't charge for it. but they do refer you and you do get sales out of it. So anyway, I went to this one property. This is method of attachment. And it was in El Toro on a street called Revere. And the mother and the father had passed away a while ago, and the mom had passed away. And so this was I call it grandma's house. So you walk in, and grandma's house is one of those homes where you walk in and the carpet's white and the couches are any color you want them to be, but they have that plastic covering on them. And you have like a billion pictures on the wall of grandchildren and kids. And paintings. How about the painting? I don't know if you guys have seen this because you're all really young, but some of you aren't. I mean, because this could be your second career. The painting of when you went to Knott's Berry Farm, and it's your side view and your brother's side view, and it's the brother and sister side view looking one way. And it's either a painting or it's black and white silhouette. They have all that crap on the walls. It's not crap, it's all memorabilia, but at the end of the day, where does it end up, right? So I'm in the house, I do the listing, and I made sure I had extra time because I knew that it was a trustee. It was the house was in a living trust, thank God, because I had talked to them 2 years before selling them another house. This was a referral. And by talking to them 2 years earlier, mom put the house in a living trust. So it did not have to go through probate. If your property is in a living trust or it's joint tenants and one person's still alive, you avoid probate. So we avoided probate. So I knew it was that. So I made sure I had extra time. I said, I'll work with you on the listing. If you want me to help you, we can go through the home and stage it so it doesn't have as much stuff in it. And so I did. And when we got done, after we got up from the table, I walked around the house with Ron. Ron was the brother, and the sister. I'm sorry, but I don't remember her name. I remember Ron's name because I did his sale first. So the sister and I were wandering through and we were talking about what should be left and whatnot. And she had so many things on the wall. And so I said to them both, I said, with all these paintings on the wall, I don't know if any of them are valuable. I have a friend that's an appraiser. She can look at them. And he like didn't even want to know if they were valuable. He's like, whatever you want to take down, we can take down now. I'm like, yeah, we can hide some paintings under the bed, the ones that we think might be valuable. And then you can put some stuff in the garage, but we have to make it so they can walk through the garage because they're going to want to see the garage. So he goes, okay. I go, I'll take down the paintings. So I walk up to the paintings and there's two on the wall like this. There could have been one centered on the wall, but there was two and they were taking up the whole wall. So I walk up to it and I'm going to take it off the wall and I grab it and I pull it. I lift it, pull it, and it doesn't come off. I don't know what possessed me to do this, you guys, but I grabbed the edges of the frames and I stabilized myself and I pulled that sucker off the wall as hard as I could. I almost fell down and I went, oh crap. And I go, Ron. And he goes, what? And I go, I got a question. Are all the things on the wall attached to the wall the way this one was? And he goes, what's the problem? And he comes over and I go, I had drywall on the back of the painting. And so I put the painting back up as fast as I could. And I centered it and took the other one down. And he goes, I totally forgot. You guys, people do stuff to their house that you're never even going to, you can't make up stories like this. He goes, oh yeah. When my parents moved from back east to California, my dad knew that California was an earthquake state. So what he did was he glued with permabond everything to the wall. He goes, even some of the knickknacks are glued to the wall. I glued to the table. And I'm like, okay. So you know what we're gonna do? And he goes, what? I go, we're going to go back to the table where we did the listing and we're going to put on the listing and I'm going to put it in the MLS and we're going to give a disclosure about it that all paintings are fixtures and will remain with the property because of how they were attached. Okay, none of the other stories are that long, I promise. A is for adaptability. Highlight A, highlight and circle adaptability. Adaptability, like the drapes. Can I take them off of one property and take them to another property? If I cannot and they're not adaptable, then they have to stay. R and highlight and circle relationships. It's the relationship of the parties. Is it landlord tenant? Is that what the possession transfer is going to be? Or is it buyer seller and it's a full transfer? If it's buyer seller and the buyers see it on the property, it better be there when they move unless they negotiated it out. If it's tenant landlord, it's not that big of a deal. There's not really going to be a lawsuit between a tenant and a landlord when you're talking about fixtures. but there will be when you're working with a buyer and a seller. The next one is highlight and circle I, and highlight and circle intention. What was the intention of the person putting it up back 25 years ago when they put it up? Or what was their intention after they completely flipped the house and put the ceiling fans up? Were they going to leave it, or was that just for staging purposes? Which was it? So when you're talking about intention, this is the one you need to write this in your notes, the hardest one to prove, because they're going to ask you which is the hardest one to prove. Intention. You don't know what I was thinking when I did it. What about A, the last one, the A and Maria? Highlight A, highlight and circle agreement. They're going to ask you which is the best one, which is the one that's going to seal the deal in court. And that's going to be agreement. What was the agreement? Whatever you have in writing is going to ace everything out. So the questions you're going to have is M for method, A for adaptability, R for relationship, I for intention, which is the hardest one to prove, and A for agreement, which is the easiest one to prove. So you're going to have all the letters, and then you're going to have which is the hardest, which is the easiest. Okay. And the other question's kind of crazy. They're going to say this one. The second letter in Maria, A, stands for, and you need to know the second letter is the adaptability. You can't switch out adaptability with agreement at the bottom, okay? Because adaptability and agreement are in a certain place for a certain reason, okay? Everybody got all those 5. Then we have appurtenances. We already talked about appurtenances. Highlight appurtenances are not fixtures, and circle not fixtures, yet they highlight run with the land. You can't see them, you can't touch them, but they go with the property like a covenant. So the hard part, another hard part about the real estate exam is one word could have 2 or 3 meanings, or 2 or 3 meanings can match one word. It's crazy how it is. So appurtenances are not fixtures, rather they run with the land. And I was on covenants. It said, and you cannot see them or touch them. They run with the property like a covenant. What is a covenant? A covenant is a promise. So when you have a grant deed, remember that the grant deed is the greatest. So always remember that grant deed is the greatest. In fact, in today's real world of real estate, in the real world of real estate, the title companies don't want to use quit claim deeds anymore. They want to use grant deeds because grant deeds have guarantees. They have covenances, which is a promise. They could just say promises, but it's a covenant. So a covenant and a promise, and they are a definite change of transfer of property. The grant deed is what you use when you're dealing with a seller and a buyer, okay? And you always use a grant deed. If it's real property, you use a grant deed because the grant deed is the greatest and it has guarantees. So we are finally on the next page. But you're learning a lot, right? Oh, we're not on the next page. We have one more thing on this page. And that one more thing is question. It's a question. Do you have to have a separate contract for the water company stock? And remember what I told you, highlight water company stock, highlight and circle no, because it's an appurtenance and it runs with the land, remember? Got it? Now we are on page 4. Takes a while to get through everything, but we're going to get through it all. So the cost, remember the cost and the time of attachment on a fixture does not matter. So if it, like her chandelier that was there forever, it doesn't matter that those chandeliers are worth $15,000 and they've been there for 30 years. That doesn't matter. Because the other thing that doesn't matter is, let's say that you have a staging company and the staging company puts in these great mirrors in the bathroom and amazing ceiling fans to match their furniture, but they're only going to be there for staging. If they did not disclose that to the buyer and they do not have little labels that says for staging purposes only, then those are fixtures and they stay with the property. Got it? So time of attachment and cost do not matter. What matters is in the contract. You got that? So we are on the next page. And that one is talking about encumbrances. What's an encumbrance? An encumbrance affects or limits title. So what does that mean? Highlight encumbrance and circle it, and then highlight affects or limits title. I want you to also circle the E in encumbrance, because what you're going to do is you're going to highlight encumbrance again where it says if you have an encumbrance, highlight and circle the E. There's an existing easement. Highlight existing easement, circle the E's, because we're also going to highlight escondido and circle the E. So Escondido is my easement story, my water easement story. So a lot of times, sometimes people want to share my notes, but if you don't have my videos or you're not watching class, it's going to be really hard because you're not going to hear the stories or see the stories. So we want to make sure that our people in our class get what they pay for, right? Passing the exam. So the Escondido story is really, really cool because um, Ning Lu sent me down to Escondido. So I'm in Southern California. And I went down to Escondido and I talked to this guy was named Martin too. Hey, that's pretty funny, huh? I got two Martins. See, I told you there was more than one Martin. Anyway, so I went down and I met with Martin and his wife. And I'm going to cut this story short because all you need to know is about the Escondido water story. So long story short, when I looked it up, I always look up someone's house before I go on a listing appointment. And I went on the listing appointment and I knew there was some kind of weird easement because it was actually on the title. And everybody has an easement. And what I do with every listing is after I take the listing, I walk around the house, the home. I walk around the home, always called a home. I walk around the home with the seller because the seller is going to give you the best tour that anybody's going to give you so that when you tour the property with buyers, you're going to give a good tour. So I do the whole tour. We get in the backyard and I see this area that showed on the plot map that there was an easement there. And it's a big area. It looks bigger in person than it did in the paper. So I look at him and I go, I know you have an easement, but like, is it that whole area? And he looks at me and he goes, Sharon, I'm encumbered by an easement. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody has an easement. Like every single house, if you have water, electricity, and gas, those utility companies all have an easement so that when you have a problem, they can come on your property and fix it. And he's like, no, you don't understand. See that whole area over there? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, if I dig about a foot down, I have a big, huge water tank. So there's a big water tank on his property. And the reason he had it was his builder had built semi-custom homes in this really good community. And the community required large lots. I don't know the exact number. It was over 10,000 square feet, probably up to about 20,000 square feet. So these were big lots. Now, on the very last house, the lot was only about 6,000 square feet. And in order to be able to build on it in that community, he had to add 4,000 square feet. So what the builder did was he went to the water company. He said, if you guys let me build on this lot and include that area, we'll give you an easement. So Martin was encumbered by an easement. You got that? It affects or limits title. There are two main types of encumbrances. There could be a money encumbrance or a non-money encumbrance. And this Escondido water tank in the ground is a non-money encumbrance. Martin doesn't get paid to have them be able to come on the property and take out the tank or go and put in water or take out water. There's no money being exchanged. But a money encumbrance could be a lien, like a lien on your home, okay? So two main types of encumbrances, money and non-money. Money encumbrance is when the owner of the property has a lien or possibly a judgment. Judgments are bad, bad things. So a lien could be a mortgage or a trustee. In other states, they have mortgages. In California, we have trust deeds. When we get to the finance part, we'll talk about the differences between a mortgage and a trust deed, a mortgage broker, a mortgage banker, and a bank, where you should send your clients. And I'm live right now because I am letting people see how we teach. And so it's really scary for me to say anything that I shouldn't say. But I will say, you guys, once you get your license and you're working with buyers, give them the opportunity to talk to a mortgage broker. A mortgage broker or a mortgage consultant like me is going to tell them the best thing they can do and the differences. Whereas if they go to a direct lender, like a large bank or a mortgage banking person, they only use their underwriters. And if they don't do all types of loans, your client's going to be turned down and have to start all over again. Whereas if you go with a broker, they're going to figure out which place is going to do the loan, and it doesn't cost you extra to use a broker. And the broker is going to put your client in the best deal that they can get. And the broker is going to make sure that if they're approved for the right amount. Because as a mortgage broker, they have to go to a 20-hour class and they have to pass a test that's 7 times harder than the test you're about to take. So they have to know what they're doing. Whereas if they're direct lenders at a bank or a credit union, they don't have to take any class. So work with a professional that's going to help your client so they don't get turned down. Because even if they're perfect and they get turned down, they're not going to want to shop again. And you're going to lose that buyer. So don't lose that buyer. So you can see in my class, not only am I teaching you how to pass the test, I'm giving you really great tips. So there's little what we call golden nuggets. So the judgment, if you have a judgment, it's because you were sued. So a judgment is when you're sued in a court of law. So a judgment, a mortgage, and a trust deed all have to do with money. So that's a money encumbrance. It affects or limits your title. Okay. The creditor who placed the attachment on your property not only is on the property they own, but when it's in a judgment that's an attachment, they attach it to everything you own. So that's a general lien. Okay. So if it's general, it goes on everything you own. If it's a mortgage, it only goes on the property that you're mortgaging. So that's a specific lien. You have to know the difference between general and specific. We'll talk about that. So in a mortgage, there's two parties, the mortgagor and the mortgagee. Highlight mortgagor, circle the OR at the end of the word. That signifies highlight the owner of the property. So whenever you see an OR, it's the person who's the maker or owner. So mortgagor is the owner, trustor is the owner making the payments to the bank. And then we'll talk about offerors and offerees because those switch around. The person who's the offeror is the one who wrote the offer. The person who's the offeree is the one receiving the offer. Now, if you write the offer, you have the buyer and you write the offer, you're the offeror. The seller is the offeree. But if the seller rejects your offer, because that's a rejection, when they counter offer, it's a rejection of your offer. Now they become the offeror and your buyer is the offeree. So you have to understand all that, okay? So going on, the mortgagor is the owner of the property, making the payments to the mortgagee, who's the lender, lending the money. In California, we have trustees, and they have three parties. The trustee with the three parties, trustee, highlight trustee, has highlight and circle fiduciary duties to the beneficiary. Remember, as real estate agents, we are fiduciaries, which means we have to do what's in the best interest of our clients. So fiduciary to the beneficiary, highlight beneficiary is the bank or the person who loaned the money. So the trustee is between the trustor, the owner of the house, and the person they're making their payments to that lent the money. The trustee is on the side of the beneficiary because they are fiduciaries to the beneficiary. Don't worry, we'll go over that again. I go over everything a bunch of times so that you learn it, okay? So non-money. Non-money could be an easement. You can't see the easement and there's no cost to the easement, but people are driving over it all the time. So let's say that you're trying to get to another piece of property because you own that property and you would be landlocked if you're not going over someone else's land, but you have an easement to go over their property. Can't see it, can't touch it. And when you sell your property, the buyer will have the same rights as you did to go over the property. So highlight, buyer has the same rights as the seller. Okay, that's a non-money easement. Now on the test, you're going to have somebody who has an easement problem. And in our paperwork, it says the Smith family. You may see on the California state exam, the Garza family. Now the Garza family, they've been mining in the hills on federal land for over 100 years. So they've been going over this piece of property and up in the hills every day and coming back every day for 100 years. And they've been doing this, and all of a sudden, the people who own the land that's right before the federal land, they sell it, and the new buyers buy it. But the Smith family, they're still going to go back and forth. Unfortunately, the new buyers, they put a chain link fence around it and padlock it. So the Smith family or Garza family on the test, what they do is they're like, what do we do? Like, what happened, right? They go, what happened? And they can't get through. So what are they going to do? They're going to sue. And they're going to, so anytime I say suit, it goes with lawsuit. So they're going to do highlight a quiet title suit, highlight and circle quiet title suit, and highlight this is a lawsuit so that they can get back the right to use that. Because once you have an easement and you're going back and forth, or once you, and that's the right to use someone else's land, once you have that, once you've done it for 5 years or more, it becomes what we call a prescriptive easement. Once you don't use it for 5 years, you lose it. So if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay. So that is one more thing on page 4, and then we'll be on page 5. And encroachment. So what I'm going to do after we do questions and answers, because I have some people that are being very dedicated and watching, we're going to show them how we do the questions and answers, and we're going to shut off YouTube because those people on YouTube are getting an example of how I teach. And then we're going to keep going. So we're just going to keep going, and you guys are going to keep learning all the way until tomorrow night. How about that? And you guys have the right to call me, ask me questions, reach out to Arlene. We're here to coach you all the way through and make sure you get your license, because we want to be here for you at the beginning of your career and all the way through your career. We can do things to help you, like we are mortgage people, and we also help you learn what to do once you get your license. Because just because you get your license doesn't mean you know what you're doing. And we do have a class called Steps to Success, and we have one that's I got my license. What do I do? Brokers, when you get your broker's license, I have people that, because you do pay more to be a broker, you're able to come to me and ask me how I did what I did. Whether you're going to start a real estate office or a mortgage office, can't really give you a whole lot on the mortgage companies because that's a lot of work to start your mortgage company. I can help you a lot if you're going to do a sales office, or you're just going to work for yourself. Because you get your license, you're like, oh God, what do I do now? Or you may just keep your broker's license and be an affiliate under another broker, which is good too. Because having your broker's license, a lot of people go, well, I'm not going to get my broker's license. It's too much responsibility. BS is what I say. BS. You can still work at the same company you work at under the same broker of record. Yes, I said another thing that's on the test, broker of record. You can still work for the same broker of record, but when somebody talks to you and go, oh, you're a real estate agent? You're like, yes, I do real estate, but I'm a broker. When you say I'm a broker, people go, oh, and they listen to you more because they know you have more knowledge. So don't just get your license and stop there. Keep moving forward. Have some respect in yourself and your career, because that's what it is. It's a career. So I don't need to coach you anymore. You can see that I'm a crazy coach. Anyway, encroachment. Encroachment. I want you to highlight encroachment, and I want you to circle the part of the word that says roach, like a cockroach. And then right next to it, I have cockroaches. And why do I have cockroaches by encroachment? Because it's going to make you remember. If a cockroach comes in your house, or if you see cockroaches go, oh, that's a cockroaches going across your kitchen. Did you invite them there? I don't think so. You're going to sue your neighbor for trespassing. You're going to sue the cockroaches for trespassing. So on the state exam, it's a garage question, and they're going to ask you about the garage. And what happens is some neighbor builds his garage about 2 feet over the property line. And the neighbor realizes it, which he should have probably said something when it was being built. But he does a survey and realizes the garage is 2 feet over his property line. What is he going to do? And the answer is highlight sue neighbor for trespassing. Going on to page 5. Remember, at the end of page 6, what we're going to do is questions and answers, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. Prescriptive easement. So prescriptive easement, highlight prescriptive easement and circle it. So prescriptive easement gives the right to use, also known as highlight an easement by prescription. Remember that an easement by prescription is a 5-year process. If you've been using somebody's property for 5 years or more, you're doing it open and notoriously. You see, everybody sees you going, like everybody saw the Garza family going over the property and leaving. They saw that every day. And they did that for 100 years. It was way more than 5 years. Now they get to use it forever. And they don't possess the property. They don't have title to the property. They're just going over it. That's a prescriptive easement. So now we're going to do dominant tenement versus servient tenement. So the dominant tenement versus the servient tenement. The dominant one is the one using the other person's property. The servient person is serving the other person. So we're going to make it really easy. If you don't understand it and you want to see me draw the pictures, because you're going to be drawing right now, Arlene just put the picture in the chat, but there is a video on making money. So the YouTube channel I'm on is Making Money in Real Estate with Sharon Butler. There's tons of videos on there that can help you if you have any questions, or if I don't have a video on something you don't understand or you can't find it, reach out to us. Arlene has a pack of videos for our students that she knows. If you want that pack, just ask Arlene for it and she'll give it to you. And it's the most informative for what you're going to ask for. She knows which ones will help you. So the dominant tenement versus the servient tenement. Only the dominant tenement can remove the right to use the easement with a quitclaim deed. So the servient tenement can't really remove it. So I'm going to give you the story. So what I want you to do is the bottom left corner, right above where it says only the dominant tenement, I want you to draw a house, a little house. You don't have to be an artist, just draw a little house, chimney, roof, whatever, and put a big S on it. That's the servient tenement. And then I want you to draw a road that goes up past the servient tenant's house and up to the corner on the right side where it says space for notes. I want you to draw another house. And on that house, I want you to put a D for dominant tenement. He's the dominant tenement because he's going to drive up on the servient's property and over to his house. In order for him to get home, he's driving on the servient tenement's property because he's serving him. Okay. So years go by and the guy drives by every morning and every night. And the person's like, I wish he didn't have this road here. Because if that road wasn't there, I could put an ADU right there. Or I could put, I have so much land, I could put a horse run there or something, whatever. But yeah, that stupid road is there. And in Carmel by the Sea, they have a lot of those. They have you'll drive down their main road and you'll see 2, 4, 6 mailboxes. And one person owns the road and everybody else goes on the road and then splits out to where their property is. And the first part of the road, the owner of the road is the servient tenement. And as it spreads out to the other ones, the dominant tenements use his road to get to their road. Okay. So as the years go by, and the servient tenement notices that the dominant tenement's not driving by anymore. He's like, I hope he's okay. I wonder if he's turned into one of those people that just stay in their house a hermit. I don't know. But I'm worried about him. Haven't seen him. I'm going to get in my car and drive up there, see if he's okay. So he knocks on the door and he says, he's knocking. And the guy goes, what? I'm here. What do you need? And the guy goes, well, I'm Mr. Servient Tenement down the road. And I was worried about you. I haven't seen you come and go, but I just noticed there's a little small road right there that you must have put in a new road. And the guy's like, yeah, I have a big truck and I drive around all the time and I'm sucking up 8 miles to the gallon. So the other neighbor is closer to my property. So I asked him if he would let me do an easement, and he did. So now I'm coming in and out here. So now the servient tenement gets the idea. He's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I was hoping he'd get rid of that. Would you sign a quitclaim deed and quit your rights to the road so I can use my road a different way? And the dominant tenement says, sure, I'm not going to go that way anymore. I'll sign the quitclaim and I'll remove my rights to use it. So the servient tenement cannot remove the rights. Only the dominant tenement can. Everybody got that? Going on to water rights. So like I said, in Carmel, they have a lot of water right issues, and in Northern California. So you really have to know your stuff when you're dealing with different types of properties. So water is safe for drinking. Now, I used to say potable water was safe for drinking. Potable water is safe for drinking, but my best example, Arlene's going to put a picture of, I know she is, of a doggy drinking out of a toilet. That's a potty. Now, my dog, Wilford, is on the ground right now. And I used to let him drink out of the toilet all the time because I thought it was safe for drinking. Um, and I still think it probably is, because the water in your toilet is the same water that comes out of your fountain, same water that comes out of your shower. So potable water, which is potty water, is safe for drinking. That's just a memory tool. My dog was having stomach issues only for a short period of time. And my friend who raises dogs said, don't let your animals drink the water out of the potty because there's a lot of germs there. And I'm like, yeah, I guess, but I keep my house pretty clean. I don't know about you. But anyway, potable water is safe for drinking. So highlight water safe for drinking, highlight and circle potable water. Appropriation. So appropriation, highlight and circle appropriation. The question on the test is going to be, is it appropriate to take water from a public stream or river? So what I want to do is I want to take you guys to Hawaii with me. Let's go, right? So when I was very young, my son was 4. So that was probably 28 years ago. We went to Hawaii. And my sister was a flight attendant. So she would fly to Hawaii all the time. And she fell in love with this place called Hana. And there's a road called the Road to Hana. And the Road to Hana is about as wide as I am. No, it's about as wide as one car. And she loved the road because as you're going on the Road to Hana, I don't know how it is now. This was 28 years ago. But anyway, we rented this car that had a psycho radio. The radio would change all the time by itself. And we're in the car, and every time we saw a waterfalls or the water was dropping into a pond and into another pond, we would pull the car over and go and see the water and touch it and whatever. But it was just so beautiful and take pictures. And that water was fresh water. Is it appropriate for me just to grab a bottle and say, hey, I'm going to get me some Hawaiian Road to Hana water? Absolutely. That's called appropriation. Highlight, it's appropriate to take water from a public stream, and highlight and circle appropriation. Going on to water beneath the surface of the land. And you have on your books percolating water. That's the name of it. Before you highlight or circle anything, what I want you to do is underneath percolating water, I want you to write not in a defined channel. Not in a defined channel. It's percolating water. After you write not in a defined channel, let the ink dry. I want you to write, I want you to highlight percolating water. I want you to highlight not in a defined channel and circle it. And then I want you to just highlight water beneath the surface of the land. So this water is underground, and it's not in a channel flowing anywhere. It's just doing its own thing underwater, underground. Okay. If you're the owner of the land and you're standing on the ground, and underneath the ground is the percolating water, you have what's called highlight and circle overlying rights. So overlying rights, how I remember is you're standing over it and the water's underneath the ground. Okay, groundwater. Last page for those people on YouTube, because this is just giving them an example. So if you guys want to re-watch up to page 6, I'll leave it open for you guys, but then we'll probably lock it up and release it only when people ask for it. Because we can't leave all this great stuff up there, can we? I don't know. Anyway, riparian owner. Highlight riparian owner. I want you to circle the RI in riparian. And then this is water that's moving like a water course or a river. I want you to highlight the word river and circle the RI. So you can see that riparian goes with river that's moving. Now, on the state exam, sometimes you'll get a question that doesn't say like a river. It'll say like a water course. Remember that water that's moving from one place to the other, like the Colorado River coming from Colorado and going down to California, that's a riparian water. So like when you look outside and you look at that water, if you go away and come back, it's different water because it went downstream. Okay. And I want to let you guys know that are in class, we take our break at 10:50. That's 10:50. And it's only a 10-minute break from 10:50 to 11 o'clock. And then we'll take lunch at 1 o'clock. And depending on where we're at, it will be anywhere from a half hour to 40 minutes. And then we'll take our last break around 3:20 to 3:30. And then we'll be out sometime around 4:45, maybe 5 o'clock, depending on where we're at. Okay. Next one is littoral owner. Highlight littoral, circle only the L. And this is water that's standing in the same area that has a shoreline, like a lake or a pond. So riparian, you're at a river, like maybe you water ski on the river. And a lake is like when you go to the lake house and you're going to go fishing and you're going to get on the boat. That water that's at your dock where your boat is the same water that was there last night. It's not moving anywhere. That's a littoral owner. And the last section on, before we do some questions and answers, is types of estates. Okay. So fee simple estate, highlight fee simple. And fee simple estate is the one with highlight the most interest one can have in real estate. So in most cases, when you're doing residential sales, you're dealing with fee simple. That means the house and the ground go together. See, sometimes the ground does not go with it. And if you're looking at a home that's really in a great area and it seems too good to be true, make sure that the land goes with the house because it can be leased land and then it would not be fee simple. Okay. So when a person purchases real property on fee simple, they can own the property for as long or as little as they want. What they have is highlight and circle indefinite duration. After you highlight and circle indefinite duration, put a star to the left of that. Next, it says my condo story. So like I said, I bought my condo when I wrote this book. I actually wrote this book. When I wrote this book, I put 1970s, but then I had to look up my properties for my tax person, and it was actually 1980. So in 1980, I bought my first condo, and it was fee simple. and it gave me the maximum rights. I could do whatever I want. It's my property. I could keep it as long or as little as I want. I didn't have any lease that said I only get it for 15 years or 30 years or 100 years. I own it. Okay, fee simple. It gives me highlight maximum rights of the property. One reason that investors like to buy property, there's two reasons. There's a lot of reasons. Okay. I've started buying property not just because I wanted something to give to my son, but I also started buying and I wanted 3 kids. So that would be 3 properties, right? So that when they all turn 18, I can give them the property or they can sell it and pay for college. Give them something, right? Um, Leave it to my heirs. But the other thing was, that wasn't what I was thinking when I was 18. When I was 18, I was thinking, I can't believe I was thinking this, is Social Security going to be there when I'm 65? And if it's not going to be, it may be there, but if I'm going to be a self employed person, how much am I going to pay into it? And if I don't pay into it very much because I'm self employed all my life, then I need something for Social Security or for security, right? So I thought, I'm just going to keep buying property. And then when I'm 65 and they're all paid off, I'm just going to collect rent. And that's what I wanted to do. And I don't know how come I thought of that, but I did. And I wish everybody would think that way, right? Because then they'd have lots of property. But there's only so much property, right? Well, you can buy it anywhere. You don't have to stay in the United States. Some people buy outside the United States too. Anyway, um, so you can leave it to your heirs. If you leave it to your heirs, it's called highlight estate of inheritance. Although the property can be inherited, highlight, it does not mean, highlight, circle, underline it. It does not mean that the debts are gone. So it's not highlight free of debts or encumbrances. Make sure you have not free of debts or encumbrances. So remember Martin had a loan on his home and he also had that encumbrance, the water tank. Okay. So when his son, if Martin died before he sold the house, his son wouldn't get the house free and clear with no encumbrances. He'd still have the mortgage and he'd still have the water company easement. Okay, that question's tough, so I will show it to you. Freehold estate, highlight freehold estate and circle it. This refers to ownership of real estate. So if it's freehold, you own it, highlight less than freehold and circle it. Highlight is renting or leasing. So freehold you own, less than freehold you're renting. Going on to the last part of page 6, and then we'll do some questions and answers. There's many different types of estates. The definition of estate is, highlight definition of estate, highlight and circle degree, quantity, nature, and extent of interest, which a person owns in real property. You have to understand this because when we talk about encumbrance, they're going to ask you the definition of an encumbrance and its effects or limits title. Okay, they're going to ask you the definition of estate, and it's going to be degree, quantity, nature, extent of interest. So when people are teaching word association, students go degree, quantity, nature. That's going to be an answer, and you see that in the answer, but it might be what is an encumbrance, and then you're going to get the answer wrong. Remember that encumbrance affects or limits title. Estates, this one. Highlight and circle degree, quantity, nature, extent of interest, which a person owns in real property. Last thing we're going to talk about before we do questions and answers is the estate for years. Now, this one, I can almost say this and still say it, is it sounds to me like they made this one up so they could have something to ask you questions on. Because an estate for years is not for years. An estate for years is a starting and ending point. So when I took my mom and my dogs out to the middle of the desert on a quick vacation from Monday to Thursday, that was an estate for years. We got there on Monday, we left on Thursday. It was a defined period of time. It was an Airbnb. Highlight estate for years and circle it. Highlight defined starting and ending point. On the state exam, you have some people who are renting, they have a business and they're going to rent a storefront. They're going to rent the storefront from June to January. It's only 6 months. They're going to ask you, what type of estate is this? It's an estate for years. We have a starting and ending point. It's not a month to month. It's not just a rental or a lease. It's exact period of time. They're moving in June 1st. They're leaving January 1st. Then there's a family. They go on a family vacation, and I want them to adopt me as their grandmommy because they go on a family vacation from September of 2016 to January of 2017. And they're going to ask you, what kind of estate is this? And it's an estate for years. So it can be way less than a year. It can be way more than a year. The point is highlight and circle defined period. Now, what I want you to do is put a squiggly line right here at the bottom of page 6, or you can put it at the top of page 7, because we're going to come back to page 7. But now what I want you to do is go all the way back to page 2. And as we go through the questions and answers, you're going to, if you don't know the answer, I want you to refer to your sheet. You're not going to have a lot of time. So focus on this, because sometimes students sit there and they take pictures and you're not learning that way, because you won't go back to it, because you just won't. You think you will, but you won't. So pay attention to the class and do it exactly how we teach you, because then you'll pass the first time and you don't have to worry, and don't overthink. So what we're going to do, go back to your page 2. It's not going to be exactly in order, but that way you have places to put notes as we're going through questions and answers. And then we'll come back to the book and keep going. So let me do everything I need to do. I need to shrink it. And I need to go to share. And I need to go to the questions and answers. And let's see if this works. Oh my God, it worked, because I totally did it different. Do you guys see it?
Yep, it's there.
I did it totally different. I'm like, oh God, did I screw up? All right, there's our logo, California Real Estate Trainers. Isn't that a pretty logo? That was Arlene. Arlene is amazing. She can do almost anything, I think. I think she can do everything, personally.
Oh, thank you.
I saw your cookie. Now I want some of those cookies I saw on your Instagram and your TikTok.
You got it.
I gotta go to her house and teach. All right. So legally and technically. So before we get started on questions and answers, I'm going to show you some of my test taking tips throughout the class. If you're writing down test taking tips, it's approximately 22 to 25. It keeps growing because I just come up with some of the stuff all the time. But the core of it is what my dad taught me how to take a test. So first of all, I never read the question first. You guys can take the test however you want, however you're most comfortable. Make sure you're most comfortable. But in reality, the way that I do it is simple. I pass with an 87% or higher on any test I take, whether I know the subject or not. And it's pretty quick, because what you're going to do is you're going to take your eyes, and I want you right now to look at D, look at C, look at B, and look at A. Okay. And think about it. Is any of that stuff I said? Now, there's going to be some stuff I said, like freehold estate. I said that. Rights and interests which a person owns. I said that. Okay. I didn't say anything about only. Watch out for keywords like only, never, always. Those keywords they're going to trick you every time. Okay. So C and A look like good answers. Let's read the question. Legally and technically, property is defined as, well, we know it's not a freehold estate. We know it's rights or interests in the thing you own. So C is going to be the answer. Other test taking tips: C, or the longest answer, is probably going to be the right answer. So whether it's the real estate broker exam, sales exam, mortgage loan officer exam, insurance exam, whatever exam you're taking, C is the most popular answer. Why? And do educators know that? Of course we know that. But the problem is I don't want to write this really great question, and then you guys go straight to A and answer it, and then I had to think of B, C, and D just for fun. I'm not going to waste my time thinking of B, C, and D, because A is correct. So A is the least popular answer. So at the very last moment, if you don't know the answer and you think it might be A is usually the answer if it's short and to the point. And C is the most popular answer. If it says all of the above or none of the above, it's a 78% chance that it's that answer. So when I'm looking at answers, I look at D, then C, then B, then A, then I read the question. Now I'm not studying them. I'm letting my subliminal mind look at them and see which one matches the question. So there we go. Rights or interests in the thing they own. Going on to the next question. Look at your answers. And the question is, how is real property different from personal property? And the answer is, real property is immovable. Look at your answers. So you're looking at DCBA. Which of the following is an aspect of real property? And we know by the end of the first sentence on page, well, I think it was page 1 or so, it says, which are aspects of real property. And it said land, fixtures, appurtenances, and a load-bearing wall. And so the answer is going to be all of the above. Look at your answers. Which of the following is considered real property? Well, remember what I told you about the load-bearing wall? According to the Department of Real Estate, a load-bearing wall is real property and cannot be moved. Okay, so in the real world, we know load-bearing walls are moved all the time, right? But in the test world, with the Department of Real Estate, the load-bearing walls staying forever and ever. I'm just thinking about how many I moved at my house. Which of the following is not real property? And we have appurtenances. Pardon? I heard you. Somebody's talking. And if you have a question, feel free to ask. Leasehold estate. And oh my God, I forgot to tell you guys. If you want to answer them out loud, feel free. Yell it out loud. We don't care. But the other thing, but wait, I mean, at least count like maybe 2 bananas, 1 banana, 2 banana, and then say the answer. Or the other thing you guys should be doing is writing them down because you're practicing taking the test, or put them in the chat and make it like a little competition because everything is always competitive, right? All right, look at your answers. All of the following are considered real property except, and implements are not real property because they're growing and they're real property while they're growing, but once they're implements, they have been, what have they been? They have been cultivated and pulled off the vine. So now because they're pulled off, they're not real property. A real estate broker may have difficulty with personal property because of ownership rights and identification may be difficult to determine. This is because personal property can. Remember we said it can be alienated, hypothecated, and become real property, so it's all of the above. Items that are fixtures are another all of the above question. Now, you're not going to get a lot of all of the above on the state exam, but we have these so that you can learn the material, so that you know that fixtures are affixed to the land, incorporated into the land, and real property. Fixtures are real property, so it's all of the above. Look at your answers. A 5-acre property is in escrow and has corn growing on it. You guys know the answer? The seller planted and cultivated the corn and has plans for the corn. However, the buyer noticed the corn and has plans for the corn. Bearing the agreement at close of escrow, who has the rights to the corn and why? And we all know the buyer gets the corn because they're paying for it. That's the answer, because they are paying for it. Of course, unless the seller negotiated it into his side, but it doesn't say that. Which of the following runs with the land? Now we have all of the above again because we want to make sure that you know that all of these run with the land. The easement that's appurtenant to the property, the covenant that's a promise, and the stock in the mutual water company. Appurtenances are all items that run with the land. It just said that in the other question, huh? So if you don't know an answer, do not answer it. Because if you don't answer it, you may find the answer in the body of a question of another one. So they switch them around. So it's going to help you. So don't answer the ones you don't know at first. And tomorrow or later in the class, I'll teach you how to pick the answer and what to do if you don't know the answer. Okay. Appurtenances are items that run with the land and are incidental to the land. All of the following would be considered an appurtenance except. So what's not an appurtenance? This is process of elimination. Fixtures are not appurtenances. They don't run with the land. It's actually the opposite of the other question. Look at your answers. Do you see something that sticks out? But remember, which definition goes with what? Which of the following best defines an encumbrance? Remember that if you look at D, then C, then B, if you're going to write down your answer, you should already have it now. Because remember, D says affects or limits title. I know that you see degree, quantity, nature, and extent of interest, but that's the definition of an estate, not an encumbrance. A non-money encumbrance would be which of the following? Which of the ones down there is not money? the easement. Land that's subject to an easement is said to be, remember what he said in Escondido? He said, I'm encumbered by an easement, right? So it says land that's subject to an easement is encumbered. Look at your answers. Mr. Nelson sold his land. It had an easement appurtenant for the road. The deed which the buyer received contained an adequate description of the land, but it didn't say anything about the easement. The buyer, remember, the buyer has the same right as the seller did. Keep that in your head. Buyer has the same rights. Look at your answers. Jennings sold Blackacre to Williams. So one of the things I want to mention is the Department of Real Estate in California used to give you a whiteboard and a dry erase pen. And they also used to give you a calculator. Now, sometimes they give it to you and sometimes they don't. And sometimes you ask for it and they'll give it to you. And sometimes they say, we don't have them. So don't rely on the whiteboard and the pen or a calculator. You really don't need them. But I just wanted to mention that to you because when you have a question that has a bunch of people, you've got to make sure you remember who's who and who's doing what. So Jennings sold Blackacre to Williams. So now Williams owns Blackacre. At the time, Blackacre had a pertinent easement across Whiteacre. So now Williams can go across Whiteacre anytime he wants. And that property is owned by Sanders. But for some reason, Sanders thought when it got sold that the easement would go away. But the buyer has the same rights. So Sanders is wrong. So when Williams tries to use it, Sanders protests. But Williams just has to prove, well, I get the same rights as the other guy did, right? So it says, which of the following is correct? An appurtenant easement always passes with the property when it's sold. Look at your answers. For more than 100 years. The Gibson family. On our paperwork, it's the Smith family, and on the test, it's the Garza family, I believe. Whichever way it is, they all have the right to do mining. The Gibson family has and owned and operated a gold mine on federal land. The only access to their mining claim is across an adjoining parcel. That parcel is sold to a new owner who fences off the parcel and padlocks the gate across. The Gibson family would be best advised to do what? Remember we said they were going to do something? They were going to do a lawsuit. So which answer has suit in it? The quiet title suit against the new owners and confirm their rights. An easement on real property could be terminated if the holder of the dominant tenement recorded a, you guys got it? Quitclaim deed. Remember to look at your answers. An interest in real property may be acquired either by prescription or by adverse possession. The interest resulting from prescription is, and this is cut and dry, so it's going to be A, the right to use another's land. Encroachment, like the cockroaches, they were trespassing, right? It's a form of trespassing, usually by building a structure a few feet over the property line. If Jacob builds his garage a few feet over the property line, extending onto Stuart's property, what remedy does Stuart have? Well, Stuart's going to sue him for trespassing. Money encumbrance. A money encumbrance would be which of the following? So we have restriction, easement, judgment, encroachment. Do it by process of elimination, or you already know that a money judgment or a money encumbrance would be a judgment. And a judgment would turn into an attachment attached to everything you own. So it'd be a general lien on the person. Which of the following is the best definition of an estate? Well, of course, the one that says degree, quantity, nature, and extent of interest. Which of the following best indicates a freehold estate? Ownership. Look at your answers. Which of the following best characterizes fee simple estate? going to be all of the above because you see possessionary interest, you see maximum rights, and possession. Which of the following would indicate fee simple estate? The most interest an owner can hold in land. Which of the following is not included in the definition of fee simple estate? This is that one that I told you was hard. The property is always free of debts or encumbrances. That's not true. Not always free, right? All right, we made it through all the questions and answers of the first section, and we're going to go back from the questions and answers. How'd you guys do? Did everybody do good? Sometimes when you put them in the chat, Arlene sees how good you guys are doing. It gives us an idea of how fast or slow we're going. Let us know if we're going too fast or too slow so that we can help you out. Hey, where did my thing go? My share. I closed it the wrong way. That's not good. Where'd it go? There it is. I'm not perfect yet, right? Can you see it, Arlene? The Word document?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Okay, because I switched it a different way. So my students in class, I need to say bye to my students that are online because they've been watching and they got to see how we're going to do the class. If they want to join us, all they have to do is go to passwithsharon.com like you guys did, or reach out to Arlene and I, and they can join us in class, right? Right. So bye, guys. We'll see you later. Thank you for watching. I'm not really good at shutting that off.